Welcome to the Barbell Strikes Back. I'm James McDermott, joined by Miguel Porter. Miguel, happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Yeah, it's Easter Sunday. It's gorgeous looking outside. I don't know. It
Yeah.
feels a little cold to me, but I don't know how it is for everybody else.
It's not too bad. I mean, yesterday was like touching 80s before the rain came, and even after that, the weather was still decent.
I was just thinking if we had yesterday's warmth and today's like sunniness, it'd be probably the best day we've had so far this year.
Yeah.
Like weather-wise and just pleasant-wise. It looks like I want to go outside and like sit outside and stuff, but there's just I got my hoodie on. Just chill.
Yeah.
So how are things in the new apartment? Are you getting even more settled in now? Everything's in its rightful place.
TV got mounted yesterday.
Oh, all right. That's a big task.
Yeah. And then that freed up a good amount of space because it was in front of the fireplace before it got mounted. So now it's like above the fireplace. I have that space in front of the fireplace now. And yeah, now everything seems more final.
I didn't know you had a fireplace. Is it a working one? Are you going to be able to light it up? And wow, okay.
Yeah,
is it
so
gas
it always has the pilot light kind of going, and then you just flip a switch and then it fully goes.
Oh, that's cool. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to put like paper or logs or anything in there.
Nope.
That's exciting. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. That's going to be even. I mean, once we get back into the winter, that's going to be really nice.
Right. Definitely.
You could read by the fireplace now.
Yeah.
Pop open some Goosebump books and have the fire going, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, the mounting of the TV is always like it's not a final step, but it's a crucial step on like making everything look like it should. Do you use the little thing to stud finder?
Yeah, but the studs are never in the spots that make sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we just used anchors to get it into the wall, but yeah, where the studs actually are or just wouldn't work for most things. So
yeah, they'd have to be aligned so it's perfectly symmetrically squared to the fireplace. Otherwise, you're gonna have it. No one's gonna do that. Like at that point, you're just putting it into the wall. Cool. How are things going in classes? You had a big class last week. We didn't get to talk about it too much, but you had a 10-person, 11-person class, right?
Yep.
And what was the workout?
Was that when I did Cindy a couple weeks ago?
Oh, it might have been.
Yeah.
So a little bit of Murph prep. Boy, are we going to have a lot of discussions and at the gym on here. Like, it's funny, April and May just get kind of taken over by Murph. As soon as the Open's over, really. So we'll say mid-March to Memorial Day is Murph, but then also the week after Murph is recovery from Murph.
Mm-hmm.
And then talking about next year's Murph. It dominates the calendar. It really does.
Yeah.
It just gets bigger every time. And we were just discussing at our coaches meeting yesterday, we're going to do a little partner half Murph, on one of these Sundays coming up, May 4th, just to kind of really kick things off on making it even more official. And of course, we'll be doing a lot of Murph prep in our programming. You are picking workouts for Sundays, so I'm assuming they're going to be kind of biased towards Murph, right?
Yeah, I mean, either have like elements of running in it, especially as the weather gets better, and just like a little bit longer classic workouts that have just like some body weight movements, some squatting along most of them. So yeah,
and it's a lot of effort goes into preparing for this workout because it's important for people. People use it as one of their annual benchmarks on seeing how they improve, maybe even more so than the Open. Do you think that's true? Like, people like gauge Murph more than, all right, I'm back in the Open. I didn't get muscle ups again for the 7th year, but I keep PRing my Murph.
Right. And I think because it is just one workout across the entire year. I think with the Open, since you have 3 and they can change every time, even though it is a marker to like see where you rank every year, I mean, it changes. So but Murph is it's body weight. So it's quote unquote low skill movements. So as long as you have like the pull-ups, right? Like you can easily see year by year, like, am I getting better at these things? Am I getting worse? Or, how do I
Yeah.
want to gauge that? So yeah, I think so.
And you can, I mean, not easily, but you can definitely have a year where you didn't have pull-ups, and then the next year you do. And it might even be you're only doing 3 of them or 2 of them or 1 of them. That might be your own unique situation, but it's definitely one where, all right, next year I'll do 2 pull-ups, because I'm going to keep developing them, and it's maybe a little easier to do than, all right, I didn't have muscle ups this year's open. I mean, the amount of work you'd have to do, if depending on how far you are away, is pretty big,
Yeah.
year to year for the open. If they are, let's say, ring muscle ups, which I don't think we had this year. No, we just had
No.
just bar muscle ups, which is okay because the rings can get tricky. But so yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to talking about it, train for it. I told my classes Mondays are Murph Mondays every Monday until Memorial Day. So I'll bake in a little bit of Murph prep in my warm up, especially if it's not, a Murph specific workout for the day. So
Right.
last week we had deadlifts and shuttle runs, and I had them do 8 minutes of 200-meter run and around a Cindy, just a little AMRAP. And you can do as much in that as you want. I want everyone to get aim for about 4 rounds, but if you only did 2 rounds, that's cool because we're still just warming up. We did some stretching and then boom, we're off on it. So I'm going to try to make little mini variations of Murph stuff, just to keep people like the constant conversation. I think is important, especially for a workout like that. Be like, hey, on in X amount of Mondays, we'll be here for real doing the big one. So let's work on it. And also, are you coming? And you should come, and it's going to be a good time.
Right.
So, well, a lot of stuff going on with that in our little CrossFit world, but we're going to kind of switch gears to talk about weightlifting. I thought it'd be cool to read an article and talk about it from Glenn Pendlay's American Weightlifting book. This is an article that he wrote in a 2-part series called The Razor's Edge on his blog. And they were combined and made into a chapter, essentially, in the book. And the way that came about, Miguel, was, Glenn had passed away by this point, and the book is broken up into multiple sections. There's like the main weightlifting one where it's all of his thoughts and philosophies and programming stuff for weightlifting. Then there's also a sports aspect of it. Like if you were going to train kids for football or, other ball type or even wrestling, sports, developing youth athletes. And the thing is, we didn't really have an ending for the weightlifting section. And so it kind of ends on, I believe, the competition chapter. And then, boom, we're right into the next section where it's talking about training athletes for sport. But there wasn't like a final finale part on weightlifting.
Yeah.
And this blog hadn't really been used for anything. And I thought that it would be a good way to kind of sum everything up and then put in a couple other articles that they really didn't have a home. So there's other sections in this chapter called complicated weightlifting or relationship with weightlifting, a section on do you have what it takes to do what ultimately, this book is talking about doing, reaching really high levels, wrapping up the discussion on technical mastery and gaining strength, and then just some closing thoughts on things that he had said in videos that we'd recorded, just like this, just meetings that we had on him discussing weightlifting. So I felt like this was like kind of a good home for it to kind of like put a pin in Olympic weightlifting and then move on to something new.
Right.
And also to use those things that didn't have a home. He had intended to write other books. This was only going to be one book and to really kind of get himself going. But it kind of seemed a little wrong to keep some things on the cutting room floor, if you will, now that he's gone and no longer able to talk about it. So just kind of put him here and, we made sure that it kind of tied together, and then boom, we're on to talking about the athletic system. So, So with the Razor's Edge, just what were your, we'll read through it a little bit, and then we can talk on along the way. And you've got notes that you have on the article, right? You were saying?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess are those notes organized kind of like where we are in the articles or anything?
Uh, yeah. I mean, yeah. As we finish sections.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
before we even read, what were your just like overall like thoughts on it? Like before we break down like anything or talk about like, all right, this is what he said in this paragraph. Here's what we think about it. What did this kind of like one, had you read this before, and did it does it help you in any way? What were your thoughts on it or initial impressions?
Yeah, I feel like we've maybe not directly, but have discussed kind of this before. Um, and I think it's actually interesting. I feel like when I talk to people, either at the gym or even my friends who don't necessarily train, I kind of talk about it in the same type of mindset. Maybe not exactly like how it was laid out here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I kind of discuss it as like, oh, I haven't even tapped into this aspect yet. Like I can still go there
Yeah.
and then gain success from using this aspect. Whereas, like, oh, once you're using everything, like you're maximalizing everything that you're given, like, what do you have left to now get better? And that's kind of how I saw this whole thing of like, oh, I'm not even sleeping well. I don't even have good nutrition, but like the progress is still going.
Yeah.
Eventually, like as you go into a sport, you're going to need to keep on progressing. Like you're going to need to use all these aspects. And then from there, I mean, we'll get into it, but like when it gets as sharp as it is, like you kind of have to be, I guess my interpretation is like a little bit more risky with like what you're using to go forward. And like either side of it, like can either be you stop completely or, injury or too much risk.
Yeah, I think that's a good accurate take on it. We've kind of been skirting around, or like you said, quasi talking about stuff like this all year, a
Yeah.
little bit. Like what are you doing outside of the gym? What are you doing? Or are you doing more in the gym? Because that's also another thing that can happen when you start to like really develop as an athlete and get to a point where those doing anything at all gains kind of go away, and now you have to figure out other ways to improve.
Right.
And it's actually funny. Just last night I was just scrolling through social media, and I hadn't seen a post from Travis Mash in a while, and he put up, he's big on being a master of the mundane, doing the things that other people won't do, doing the things that no one sees, or the incredibly boring things, the tedious things, being standing in your kitchen and making all that food and then actually eating it and stretching. Or like that's a common one at the gym where I'm like, hey, well, like if you just did this at home, and people, they always smile. Like it always starts with a smile, and that's where like
Mhm.
that's their way of saying I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I could literally move from my couch to the floor, and while I'm watching Netflix, I could roll out my calves, but I'm never going to do it. Like that 2 feet of distance is the difference between more success and not, but I
Yeah.
won't do it. And the thing that kind of struck me was in this article, Glenn mentions 3 people. And of course, there's more people that he has seen walk this tightrope, but he gives 3 examples. Travis Mash said in 28 years, how many people he's seen do like this ultimate thing. How many do you think it was that he said in 28 years?
Probably like 2,
A little more than that.
5.
6, which is still really, really low.
Yeah.
In 28 years, he's seen 6 people that have been willing to like go all in and like do what needs to be done to like get to the final stage, which I guess if you're going to have a final stage, I guess the Olympics is, in the sport of weightlifting. And that's what these guys in Glenn's article were shooting for. They all
Yep.
wanted to be Olympic champion. And remember, I've told you guys the story, that I've heard that Donnie Schenkel shared at the last seminar I went to for him. Glenn used to call the girlfriends and be like, hey, just so you understand, he has this goal. Don't get in the way of it, because you're not going to outlast the goal. If you get in the way of this and you're like, no, Donnie, don't go to training. No, don't do this. Or let's go out. that's not going to work. So if you really want to be in this relationship, you have to understand there's a third component to it, and that's the Olympics.
Yeah.
And it's understandable that regular people in the gym don't live this kind of lifestyle. I think in our last talk last week, we were discussing degrees of freedom, right? On the guy, Robert Kraft, the guy who's running every day. He has way less degrees of freedom in his life to do anything, to even leave Florida or California, wherever he's from, to go to a wedding or to do something, because he has this goal. And I guess he's walking the razor's edge on a completely different way. There is no end game. He just has this obsession with a streak. But if you want to go to the Olympics, you're going to have to make sacrifices in your life, right? Or whatever it is your ultimate end goal is. Before we even get into the article, I guess, it's possible, right, to have, we'll call it an Olympic mindset. Do you think that's fair? An Olympic mindset of in just things that aren't competitive for sport? Like maybe you just want to be the best teacher, or you want to be you want to lose 200 pounds, or you want to do XYZ, or you want to play with your kids and you can't right now. Like, is that the same thing? Can you can have that level of dedication where you kind of go here to get there and become the best, and it doesn't have to involve sport?
Yeah, I think so. Let's use like being a better teacher. I mean, it's all time spent, so if you are an active teacher, like you're already in the classroom, but now what do you do after you get out of the classroom? Like, what are you learning from? What are you refining?
Yeah.
And then there's like I guess you could say like a dissatisfaction with where you're currently at, where you're like, okay, even if you think you're doing great, that there's another level that you can get to. I think you see that with different things, or like, I would say a good example is like these streamers nowadays. Like, you get 1 billion people to watch your stream, but there are more people who haven't seen it out there. And I'm not going to stop until I go there. So like they put in hours and hours into this thing. I think so.
Well, and I think the teacher one is kind of a good example. Like, all right, you care so much about these kids. Number one, like they're your sport, so to say. They're weightlifting. They're the snatch, the clean jerk. They're your total, or their test scores or something are your total. Like that reflects on you, and you're not blaming anything else within the system on why that may happen. And you're putting all that you can into teaching those classes. Maybe when you're making your lesson plans, you're thinking of ways that you can relate this to your class in a better way than what's already on the syllabus or the textbook or whatever. And you're going to teacher certifications. And when they do their midterms and you see that the class average is a B-, you're like, you know what? That's not good enough for me. Like I'll still get paid no matter what. And I could phone it in. I could go home and play video games and do all these things and have my lesson plan, or you can go home and be like all about your craft. And of course, there is a way to go down that path where it's like, oh, it's affecting your family, it's affecting your health or things. But I'm sure, actually, I've met teachers where they keep themselves healthy because they want to perform better as a teacher. I've had some college professors that are like that. They're like, no, I can't get sick. I need to be in here to teach this class. Or I want to have energy and not be lethargic and things like that. So I eat healthy. They're actually training for their job. They're like, I don't want to get to the end of the day and feel terrible and then go eat crappy food and sit and vegetate. And then I'm telling my kids not to do that either. So they want to be good role models too for the kids that they're in front of. So I think, you can kind of take this concept of training and what we're trying to do, and you can take it as far as you want to, and definitely you can take it down a path that has diminishing returns or isn't healthy, or you can like have this, I guess, a cliche term would be like a champion's mindset, right? That's something that's thrown around out a lot, and you can just be like, I want to be the best at this craft, in my fullest capacity. I mean, like how, I don't know. I feel like we understand this. I wouldn't want to be a high school teacher for 30 to 40 years and not enjoy it to the point where I'm not pushing myself or I'm getting results from the kids and trying to think of new ways and almost trying to advance my craft.
Yeah.
Kind of like how yesterday we were talking about how you can make your own progressions for movements that we teach, and then you can refine those. How boring would it be to use the same progressions all the time for so many movements and also not try to like tweak them to be better? Like
Right.
if we're doing pull-ups and like my progression has 3 steps and I like to go through each of those steps 2 times, to never try 3 times and see if that works. And then after it doesn't work or it does, evaluate and be like, you know what, I like that, I'll keep it, or you know, I don't like it. Or you were talking about shoulder initiations instead of
Hmm.
scat pull-ups. Okay, well, what it would almost be a disservice to myself and athletes to not lump that into my progression one day and try it and see if it works and be like, you know
Right.
what, I don't like this one, I'm not going to do it again. Or I see that as a nice lead into kip swings. Like,
Yeah.
boy, would it be boring to not do that, right?
Yeah.
um, or if you're a weightlifter, to not to, you know, if you're a full-time weightlifter, you don't have a job and whatnot, why wouldn't you push to this type of a level?
Yeah. Right.
Like, how boring would it be to do this and not try to get that good? And there's an example of with Caleb Ward on him, you know, coming back and deciding like, you know what, I want that record, I want a serious run, I'm going to do this full time,
Yeah.
and making the decision to go full time. So cool. Yeah, let's read it. Do you want to start or I'll start?
Yeah. Let's see if I'll start, and then let's see if it lines up. Okay. So the razor's edge. Sometimes in training, things just go your way. Everything is working. The rhythm is just nice and steady. You're working hard. You're feeling good. Your weights are moving up. You're consistent. Tired, but not too tired. Sore, but it's a good sore. It doesn't quite hurt. And because you're consistently making your weights, you get confident, maybe a bit cocky. You're on the razor's edge. Um, let's see. When you are a beginner, that edge is wide. A damn 4-lane highway. You can veer right or left a bit and still stay on the highway, moving forward. Easy to train a bit too much or not near enough and still progress. Do the wrong exercises, no matter your training, you will make progress. Don't sleep or eat right. Don't worry, your snatch will still go up.
I think I think that's where a lot of people are, right there, and it's
Right.
so easy. Um, I think we have some people that are like maybe getting to the tail end of that. Like you're obviously not a beginner, but where do you kind of feel you are within that situation there of you don't sleep right, you don't eat right, still making progress? Like, are you still there, or are we to the point where now like this effort outside the gym has to be right?
It depends. I mean, yeah, there are different levels to it. There are days where you can tell that's like, oh, there's nothing there. Like I don't have it purely because of these things that I did. Um, and then yeah, there's still those days where even if that specific day isn't going well, I know that I can probably like push past it. Because again, we're also not training every day.
Yeah.
So I can like, I guess, find like reserves to use for a day of training, knowing like I get a rest over the weekend, or I at least have I at least have Thursday or something to rest afterwards. But yeah, thankfully, still in that kind of area where I can kind of, I guess, still like have fun and not have it immediately go to, all right, my training is going to plummet for an extended period of time.
Yeah. How do you think it'd go if we tried for like even just a week? Let's go 5 days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I mean,
I
the
don't know.
programming would have to be, not that
Right,
much
that's the
different.
thing. I mean, because it's like you read this and it's like they're doing multiple sessions like per day and all of that. So I mean, we would really just have to, at the very least, keep all our sessions kind of the same level of intensity every day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was kind of thinking like as we get further into it, but yeah, training becomes scary when you go like, oh, I'm doing everything right. Now what? Like,
Yeah.
I hope that I'm getting these extreme results, or like, then it kind of, it, it seems like it's not worth it otherwise.
Yeah. And you're meeting the requirements of the program. You're doing all the squats.
Yep.
They're hard. They're not easy. We're pushing the weights. We test regularly. And if you have good attendance, then it's like, okay, I didn't PR though. I didn't improve, or what else can I do and where did I go wrong? And that's why we've been having these discussions on rating our sleep, nutrition, recovery, and what are we doing outside the gym, or even looking at attendance too. Like, look, you missed 13 days out of the last training cycle. We only met 38 days, so that's a huge dent in what you're missing. Cool. You want to continue through intermediate and elite?
Yeah. Okay. When you're more of an intermediate, it's a bit different. Go out drinking one night, your training is going to suck tomorrow, most likely. Do too much, progress will most likely stop, and you will be hurting. Do the wrong exercise, your technique will get less efficient, and your lifts will slowly become harder. When you're Caleb Ward or John North, you're not walking on a balance beam, you're walking on a rope. You're finally really on the razor's edge. And one push either direction, and you will fall from that rope. You will fall from the razor's edge. If someone pushes you to one side, you will get hurt. If someone pushes you to the other, you will cease progress. The longer you train, the thinner the edge becomes, and the sharper it gets. And eventually, it's very hard to balance on, and it's very easy to cut yourself. At the highest levels, all athletes seek to balance on that sharp edge. They know the risk, but it's the place they want to be. And then I can just finish off, I guess.
Okay.
I've seen 3 people in 20 years of coaching balance on the razor's edge, the thin edge, the one that can cut you. Caleb Ward, John North, and Donnie Schenkel have all done it. The man who does it for the longest is the one who will be the greatest weightlifter. And then he says, I hope you're reading this, John and Donnie.
I like how in a lot of his blogs, if you go back and read them, there's always like a lot of like commentary to some of the lifters.
Right. Yeah.
like I hope you're reading this, like it's almost like if I wrote like articles and then like I called you out at the end and be like, so remember that, Miguel, that you should do that, and it's like you weren't maybe mentioned at all. Like, I think it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like also this probably came up because he's watching them, and then it's like it's in his mind because he's watching them, and he's like, oh, yeah, this article is literally for you or about you.
Yeah. They all are.
Yeah.
And they would it's very possible this blog was written and they're on the other side or at the same table,
right,
also writing their blogs, because they all had blogs back then, because that was the big thing. Like, no one was doing Instagram stuff. You just wrote a blog, and it's very possible they could be at the table, or maybe it's during training, and and he's kind of like writing notes for this a little bit while they're lifting, because like they're there multiple times a day. Like, it's like most coaches now, I think the majority, I could be wrong, I think the majority kind of just move around and meet with people. Like, he would just be sitting at like a table and just watching training, and maybe you'd come over or he'd say something to you, or if there's a need to get up and go. But it's almost like making sure you came in and did your job, because you were also getting paid too. So he might be there, all right, if you're all just sitting, resting 5 minutes, who knows how long between things, might just be doing some programming, writing a blog, things like that. I don't know that to be 100% true, but I do know I've seen photographs of like that setup, and I imagine it probably happened a lot because again, this is every single day. This is, I think, 6 days a week. So that's a lot. You're spending a lot of time together, and there's a lot of like, I don't need to go over there and tell him to do this again. He should know, or just yell out to you and then go back to sitting. And then you hear the stories of like the old like European coaches. Oh, they're all in the corner smoking, and you guys are off doing what you need to do. And then they look over at you and you think they're talking about you, and they probably are. And then you're like, I should probably do this better because they're talking about me. And then they're probably talking about the soccer match that went on and the bets they lost and stuff like that, or whatever it is that they're talking about.
Yeah.
So one line that kind of popped out here to me. Where is it? I lost it. It's where it said it's where you choose to be. With one little push, if someone pushes you one side, you'll get hurt. If someone pushes the longer you're on it, eventually kind of. They know the risk, but it's where they want to be. It's all intrinsic motivation, right? It's what you want to do. The coach can't do it for you. They can't decide that you want to do this. You simply just provide the program. You provide the advice, things like that. And people are going to take it or leave it. And sometimes you can get like passionate about it. And that's almost like when I'm trying to like figure out now, like if I get like not worked up, but maybe close to it or really passionate about something, I feel like that's maybe the first sign of I want it more than you want it for yourself. Does that sound correct? I'm trying to figure this out for myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this goes back to even we had a lot of things of like when I started coaching and like we talked about it in a meeting of like, what are our motivations as coaches? Like, do we want this person to hit this thing because how it reflects on us? Or, so there's always that question, but it's the same thing with other people in the club, like being a member and just watching teammates lift of like, don't you see, like, I want you to do better because it's good if you do better. It's good for all of us if we all do better. Like, but then, you realize like, oh, maybe you just don't see it in the same way that I see it. Or like maybe I want it for you more than you want it for yourself. Hopefully just currently, and eventually you'll get to the point where you want that success for yourself more than I want it for you. But
Well, and I'm trying to like now that I've like noticed it like within the last few weeks for certain situations at the gym, I'm trying to add on to like my 2025 philosophy. Like if you remember way back, I said my philosophy is did I stutter? Or yes, that's what I meant to say. All these things,
right?
But now I want to add a piece to that on I've said my piece. Now live your life, like because like I can't like take on like this extra stress from so many people. You asked me, I gave you an answer. Now, if you want to go 5 different places, or if you want to keep pushing it, I'm like, then do what you want to do. You know, like you have to do what you want to do. Like I said it the other day. Won't use names. Someone asked me about shoes. Should I get shoes? And then I'll just wear them out and about and all these things. And I gave my answer. And then after that, I was like, do what you want to do. They're your shoes. You're going to spend the money on them. You'll find out why this probably isn't a good idea eventually. Other people around you are telling you what maybe you shouldn't do that and whatnot. But like, I was like, I could have continued. And then like, I was like, just stop. There's no reason. There's no reason to continue. Like I've already given the answer. So I'm trying to get better at doing that. I'm like giving the answer. And especially when I know it's the right answer. And if you try to find a wishy-washy thing left or right, that's on you. Like, and there's nothing I can do about that, And also, I guess it also depends on the the significance, the severity of the thing, right? If this
Right.
is a
Yeah.
all right, this is a little thing, like do what you want to do. Like
Mhm.
you'll find out eventually, if they get ruined or something. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to add that into my philosophy and how I do things going forward. It's like and I don't want to carry it with me. So if you want to be here and do that, awesome. If you want to do day four. But if you don't want to do day four, it doesn't. It's okay too,
Yeah.
And I mean, with day four, my thing is like it's just supplemental. But I could if I wanted to be like day four is crucial. You have to
Mhm.
do it. And now I'm upset with people not coming in on a Saturday when really I don't care. Like I already know what we did during the week. That was the most important part. If
Yep.
you need more rest, take more rest. But if you want an outlet to do something, I will provide it for you. Um, so this is something that like I'm coming to terms with, and this article kind of like reminded me of was like they gotta want to be there,
Mhm.
like John North, Donnie Shanko, and Caleb Ward had to want to walk on the razor's edge. That if they push left or right, um, and then I'm just there, or any coach is there to like guide you through it as safely as possible and give you resources, but you can't do it for them either.
Right.
Any? Did you have any notes on any of this? Was that the end of the first article?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm reading it from the book. You're reading it from the article, and I think I said this before. It's split into two on the blog.
Mhm.
So yeah. Any other thoughts on this kind of first one?
Yeah, I guess if we go back to like the intermediate um, portion of it, where I guess that's kind of like I don't know. It's weird of like always trying to reevaluate like where am I in this? Because there are moments where it's like, oh, this is intermediate. Like now I feel like my progress has slowed a little bit more. Like I've put in years now into this where I'm like, okay, this is a good example of like where I'm at, where I can still do these things, but I do feel the effects. But I can still get past this. Or like I'm even like saving things of like each year I like take it a little bit more serious,
Mm-hmm.
but not fully. I can't turn the dial all the way to 10 because that's too scary. But
And you need to have a life, or
right, exactly.
you want to have a life. You don't need to have a life, but you want to have one.
Where it's like, okay, let's see how far this can take us. And then each year, we want to progress more. Okay, now I have to add in this new thing. And yeah, that knife is becoming more and more sharp. Like it's less of a blunt thing because I'm now refining all of these elements to make sure that I'm still progressing. Um, yeah, it's very interesting because I feel like I think about it a lot as an athlete.
Yeah. And would you say that now, since you have years of experience and you've gone through a lot of iterations of programming, a lot of competition experience, all different levels, that now your ability to choose to do this has kind of been like refined? Like, whereas, like in the beginning, your coach is choosing everything for you.
Hmm.
Like your first competition, I'm pretty sure I picked all those weights and just told you what to do, and when to go and stuff. But now, I ask you, what are we doing? Or I
Yeah.
have like a general idea of a suggestion. Um, would you say that's where we're at now, or that's true?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm fairly agreeable in terms of like someone to coach, but I do also like I'll just kind of do what I want because I know that that currently works. Like I kind of have to go off how I'm feeling. And
Yep.
that's another part, right? Of like I now know how I'm feeling. Where it's like I remember years ago, it's like I would do a lift and you would be like, "How was that?" And I'd be like, "I have no clue. I don't know what I did."
Yeah.
And like now it's like for the most part, I can go like, "Oh, this is how this feels. This is what I was doing. Here's something that I tweaked a little bit and I felt this difference and all of that." So yeah,
I do know that there are a lot of I've been a part of a discussion before on you you almost shouldn't ask people how does that feel, and they don't like to ask people, how does that feel? Instead, just tell them, do this better, like, because you're not trying to have a whole conversation with it. But I think different mindset for CrossFit and weightlifting, and kind of like what we're doing and the specializing. I myself tend to tell like the newer people more on like what we need to do. And I know in the past, you guys, many of you guys who have more experience now, you just want me to tell you what to do. Like, you don't want to have to think about it too much. And maybe that's just because of the time of day or lifting, things like that. But more of you guys are being open now on like giving me the feedback back. Like, it's one thing for me, like at some point you have to give me feedback, right?
Yeah.
Like, but now you guys are at the point where you know what happened when you missed a lift, and you should gain that capability, right? Like, the only way you don't gain that ability to like understand is if I haven't educated you on any of it and you're just lifting. But how boring would that be? Can you imagine how crappy that would be if eventually it just stayed like that all the time, where you needed me all the time to be right there,
Right.
I think it's cooler if you gain those skills. And I mean, of course, taking seminars like you have, and you specialize a little more, and Schaff in coaching more than others, but other people are there, that don't get practice coaching like you guys do. Like Haley and Jennifer can both tell me what went wrong, or what we need to do, or how things are feeling.
Yep.
Versus other new people, it's like, okay, I don't know. It's kind of like the like in a movie, you have an unreliable narrator. Is that Is that the thing where you're like, wait, is this real? Like, we've been going through this through their lens. So it's like, I think you're an unreliable narrator when you're a beginner, but then when you start to get into these intermediate advanced stages, you become someone who can, like, you're more of an author in your own journey than the person who gave you the paper and pen to begin with.
Right.
And that's like when you join Barbell Club, it's like, here you go. And like, I'm going to teach you how to write in the lines and all these things. And then eventually you're like, well, I'm on my own page now. I got ideas, and actually literally we do that in Barbell Club, literally give you a piece of paper and you write your ideas on it. That's kind of where we're at now. And that's like our tool to, I guess, now to learn how to do that. So if you are a beginner, how can I start critically thinking about my own lifting? Well, I'll practice it every session. I think it's a good place to be in. Any other thoughts on this first part of the article?
No, I think, the second part we'll be able to expand a little bit more.
Okay. I'll get us started here. Caleb came back from his first semester at North Michigan University on a mission. He'd put almost 7 years of work into the sport of weightlifting and badly wanted the junior American records. He quit school and came back to Texas and trained full-time. Things went well. Caleb was always consistent, but he was getting really consistent with weights very close to his maximums. He was training heavy, but was still showing up fresh and feeling good almost every day. His morning workouts, which were supposed to be working up to 90% weights, were feeling light and easier than normal. Things were going well, but not quite magical yet. We made one small adjustment that brought everything together. Instead of 2 workouts a day, lighter in the morning, then heavy snatch and clean and jerk and squatting in the afternoon, we split up the afternoon workouts to do snatching and squats. Then he rested a couple hours and came back a third time in the evening for heavy clean and jerks and more squats. What was it about that change that made everything come together? That really put him on the razor's edge, which led to maybe the best period of training in his life. That one little change did it for him, it didn't last forever, but it was fun to watch a good athlete doing everything right and becoming great. He clean and jerked 203 kilos for a new American record a short time later. If while you're reading that, maybe there's some words different or the order's different or something, it's because remember the one in the book has been edited,
Right. Yeah.
and changed for flow and things like that. But this is a great example of you can tweak one small thing in training, and all of a sudden it all makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a cue where like, oh, I understand how to do this now, or like that one day when you do a lift and you changed your hand position or whatever, your foot position, or just even your tempo on the lift, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's felt like something I'd never done before.
Yeah.
It's funny how small changes can have such a big impact.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on this little section here on Caleb Ward?
Yeah, I think what stood out to me reading this specific paragraph was like he was already really good.
Yeah.
Like he was doing everything right. He came back, he quit school, he trained full time, and he still wasn't great. Like he was very much like maximizing everything that he possibly could, and still wasn't fully at like great level until, you know, you only use like what's left. You change one little thing, and then that happens to be the next thing that works. So it's like so many of us will never get to that level of the good that he was, because there's so many things that we're leaving on the table still of like, okay, yeah, I'm not training this amount. I'm not devoting time to recovery. I'm not doing this and that. And then you may even get to that level, and then that still might not be enough. Like not everyone can be great. That's just how that works. So yeah, that was
like, have you seen videos of Caleb Ward lifting?
Yeah, I think so. I think less than the other guys, but yeah.
Probably definitely less than, I mean, we have a Donnie Schenkel poster right on our wall, but big athlete, 105, 105 plus when those were the weight classes. This is the early 2000s. I like how we kind of start off that, you know, he'd been working for 7 years, and then kind of, you know, when he was done with school or quit school. So even quitting school, that's like a big life decision, because at some point when he was at school, he must have been like, you know what? I want that record. I don't like how it doesn't say my name next to that record. And I believe in myself that I can do that. And if I just dial in and go full time, and I'm not in the classroom, I'm not doing this, I'm just being an athlete. And he doesn't have the distractions, so to say, of like, he's not scrolling on his phone. You know, he may not have even had a phone. You know, this is the early 2000s. I didn't get my first phone until 2006, senior trip. So this might have been like, I don't know when this was, 2003 to 2005, maybe. So that's it just comes back to like, you have to kind of decide first, right? What kind of conversation do you have with yourself when you decide I'm going all in on something and I do want to take it to the next level? That could even be the year to year, like you were talking about for weightlifting. I'm like, okay, I want to get a little bit better, and I want to keep getting closer to, you know, maybe if we'll say the goal is to like, all right, I want to hit the totals I need to qualify for those next bigger level meets. What kind of a conversation do you even have with yourself?
Yeah, I guess, relating it back to this, what I kind of pulled from this paragraph is it's a really honest conversation with yourself. It's almost like for me, it's like a preparation of like, okay, we're adding this in, which means that we're taking, like you said, like we're taking away a little bit of freedom. Like define fun, you know, but like you're losing a little bit of that freedom. Like you get home, you can't sit and just watch TV. Like it's eat dinner. Maybe you can have something on while dinner's playing. The second you're done eating dinner, TV's off. You need to get ready for bed. Right? And that realization of like, all right, we're taking away some of this freedom, some of this fun potentially. You can't go out on the weekends as often as you did. You can do that at the chance to get better. And it's a chance.
Yeah.
Like you can sacrifice and then you still might not get there. Like that's what my conversations with myself really are just like, okay, you're going to have to take this away and that still might not be enough. And you have to be okay with that still not being enough potentially.
Do you have to tell yourself, okay, it may not be enough and it's a chance, but taking the chance and failing is better than just staying where we are right now?
Right. Because then there's always unanswered questions. And for some, and it is sometimes the more appealing route of like, yeah, if I took it seriously, I probably would have been able to do this, right? You can always have that in your back pocket of like, yeah, but I never really fully committed to it.
Yeah.
I can say that 10 years down the line and be like, yeah, but I was pretty good, but I never really wanted to.
Sounds a little too close to the comment of, yeah, I benched 315 in high school. Yeah, I could do it back then.
Like, yeah, if I really wanted to, I could have made it to the games. I just didn't want to, I was having too much fun out there,
Yeah.
But you'll know within yourself of like, yeah, no, it was too scary, honestly, to like devote that full time because I know that there was still a chance that I still wouldn't have hit those goals.
Is what holds back, let's say, like if it's the 1% that actually take this leap and go this route and do what Caleb Ward did, quit his job, or what John North did, living in his car, homeless, sleeping out in the parking lot outside of meets in the gym and stuff like that, and working fast food jobs and scrounging up change and stuff like that. Do you think, where was I going with this? I had a thought on, it's just the fear of failure. I don't know if that was I had it and I lost it.
Yeah, because it's like comfortability is it's what our body naturally wants. So I have a job where I'm comfortable. I'm doing all this stuff. The training, I've assimilated to this level of training, right? Where it's like before we weren't even training 3-4 times a week. It was less. As we add those in, I've assimilated that into just what I do. Now to do more, again, you're pulling yourself out of that comfortability to take a risk at something that you might not get. Like if it's guaranteed, then it's an easy thing of like, all right, a little bit of hardship and then I'll get there.
Yeah.
But if you go, all right, I'm leaving this sense of security that I have for something that I might not even get, like that's terrifying.
And I'm pretty sure, unless he had family in town, I can't remember where Caleb was from. If this was happening in Wichita Falls, then and maybe Caleb's not originally from there. I can't remember his history. More than likely, Glenn was just having him stay in a spare room in his house, or on the couch, and that was often the case back then. It's like, oh, okay, well, hey, you can live in that room, and you don't have to worry about rent. The only thing I ask is that you take out the garbage and wash some dishes, and then we'll go train three times a week.
Yeah.
That's how it was, I think, for a lot of people back in the day, and I know that Glenn often did that with people. It's like, yeah, crash on my couch for 6 months until you can get on your feet, and then get your own place. I don't know if that's an old thing or if people now are kind of maybe adverse to doing that on being like, you know what? No, I need my space. I need my, or I'm not going to sleep in my car. Do we hear stories like that anymore? Do people do that at the pro CrossFitters? Any of the weightlifters now? I feel like I don't hear stories like that. Like they used to be.
I see it, but it's a little bit more structured. Like it's less of like couch hopping per se. Yeah, and I mean, people get sponsorships. They get like these little things here and there. I mean, yeah, I see it a good amount of like, yeah, this gym that I train at, I just coach classes, and then that's how I am able to, kind of pay for my training there or whatever. Kind of, but yeah, even I think we talked about Foxcatcher before the movie.
Yeah.
Um, that type of situation where it's like, yeah, this is your job now. It's just training. You're kind of just at this person's home, but they have the facilities. And yeah, if you want to maximize, all this stuff, that's probably going to be your best route.
And maybe you have a stipend or something like that, and you have to make content. Like I know, like John and Donnie and probably Caleb, when they're out at California Strength, they'd be training all day, but then they're also at the gym, like training sports teams or doing personal training clients. A lot of personal training clients, so they're there like all day.
Yeah.
And then of course that makes it easy for to like, well, we have 2 sessions today, we have 3 sessions today, and like plan your PT clients around that kind of. And then they all go to Costco and have the free samples and eat food, and they're also eating all day, and grilling steaks and stuff. And it seems like a lot of people, I know, especially when John used to talk about it a lot back in the day, and by back in the day I mean like 2015. People would get enamored with that, and John would put out to people, "Come live with me, quit your job, come live with me and train all day." And none of those people really made it that long.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because it's I won't put the blame on John. He provided a gym with no membership payment, coaching. You're essentially living with him. You're around him all the time. He's national champion, world team member, has all these things. He's your coach, and it just I think eventually life just kept chirping away. It's like, wouldn't you like to have friends? Wouldn't you like to play video games? Which I'm sure that they played video games in their downtime. There was an Xbox at Cal Strength, from what I remember. But wouldn't you like to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Oh, it's Christmas, it's a holiday,
right?
We can't train today. And he's gone on rants on being like, what? No, it's just another day. Like, okay, enjoy Christmas, but we still have to live today. A lot of people, once they were enamored with the idea of it, and then when it came time to like keep doing it, not so much. And that's like the grass is greener on the other side. Like there's a reason why Travis Mash only had 6 people in 28 years, or there's a short list that's listed here in the book. It's because not everyone can do it. Could you ever see yourself doing that? Like, all right, I'm going to move across the country and live with this new coach, and I'm going to go full time and all this stuff. And I'm talking about I'm talking about early 2000s, not like today. There's no camp. There's no social media guy filming you and stuff like that.
I don't know. Maybe at different points in my life. Like, to be honest, like right now I'm too comfortable. I would need to bank at least 3 to 5 more years of like saving money, all this stuff, just in case, before I do something like that. But yeah, you're right. It's like, it's kind of like everyone's sort of dream. Like even you used to watch like Kung Fu movies and all that stuff. And, these people leave all their worldly possessions to like train with these monks for months or years. And in a way you're like, that's so cool. But at the same time, you're like, that's insane.
It's scary, right?
Yeah.
And it seems insane because it gives a realization of, like you said, like, whoa, I am crazy comfortable. And I didn't think I was.
Yeah.
And I guess, and people don't like to realize they're comfortable. Like, have you ever felt that where you're like, I'm almost offended that you think I'm comfortable, or I am comfortable and I've done this to myself, it's a weird feeling. I remember when I moved to, I was going to do my internship for Albany CrossFit, and I moved to Albany for a summer, and that was fine. All right. I didn't have I had my family, but didn't have a job or other attachments.
Right.
And then I went back and I finished my degree, but I didn't live at home. I lived in a frat house in Binghamton and commuted shorter to Albany. Okay, well, that was fun. Like, we're kind of hopping around now. We're moving a lot. I would say within the first 5 years of finishing Cortland and embarking on my career, I moved a lot of different spots around Albany, and picking up and going was easy, super easy. When they said, hey, do you want to come back out and live in Albany and work full time and no longer be an intern? And I was like, yeah, I like pick up and go. I was working at the YMCA at the time, Binghamton, but I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. I want to be here.
Right.
But now, like I've mentioned back in December, I got like offers and whatnot. And like, I can't, like, even if it's like probably maybe the best thing for me or to do something new or anything, boy, is it scary. And boy, are the attachments way too deep now to just uproot. I'm like, I'm closing in on 40. Like, when I was making those decisions to just hop up and go and do something new and live uncomfortably in a frat house or in a small apartment and make no money and have to go to the owner's house and pick up dog poop off the lawn. And it's okay because later on they would tell me how to teach pull-ups, stuff like that. That was almost 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, holy crap. Like, I didn't realize until the offer was made, I didn't realize how vehemently against change I would be, and how hard, and also how hard of a decision that would be to all of a sudden be like, goodbye Albany CrossFit, goodbye Albany CrossFit Barbell Club, goodbye Miguel, goodbye Schaff, all these people, and just all of a sudden show up in Colorado and be like, hello new people and hello new thing, and let's start again. It crazy, right? Like how hard it would be. So I don't know, that's the only way I can relate to the feeling, and the only mini micro way that I've done it before, on like driving from Afton, New York to Albany with all my worldly possessions in my Jeep at the time. That's everything I have. So yeah, it's hard. And there is that thought of like, the grass isn't always greener either. So it becomes a point too where maybe you should make the change, but you're afraid that like, oh, maybe I'm making the change because the grass seems greener, but oh crap, it actually isn't, and I shouldn't make the change. Have you been in a situation where you have done something like this?
I've had it come up. I don't think I've ever done it, I guess. The biggest thing was like moving out of my parents' place. Obviously like more risky than, just staying there. It was against the grain, like within my family. Like, even though I graduated from college and like had a steady job, I was the youngest out of all my siblings to like move out at that age. So yeah, I would say that's my biggest thing. I have been like, I've had chances to like move to Oregon. Like, if you remember, I used to go to Oregon like every summer. And like, I've had chances to do that, and, just maybe didn't feel fully right to do it, or was too risky. And like, looking back now, it seems like the better decision, but at the same time, you never know what you would have ran into if you went that route. So you move out to Oregon, you meet your future wife, you stumble into a business opportunity. 5 years later, you're a millionaire. It's life is crazy, and it's a ball rolling down a hill, and Oregon is further away from your anchor point. So even though you've moved out of your parents' house, you're still within 10 minutes of your parents' house. I don't know. Yeah, when I first moved,
So that's still like, all right, like it's almost like I'm still touching home base.
Exactly.
I'm still here. Yeah,
it's always an option. Yeah,
if you had to, and your parents would be like, no problem, Miguel. Come
Yeah.
on back. They'd probably be thrilled to have you back.
Yeah.
Oh, he's back in the house. That means we get to talk to him more. And also, we have things that need to be done, like typical parent stuff. So yeah, and I don't know what the conversation was like with Caleb on telling his parents, "Hey, I'm quitting college and I'm going to do that." That's a conversation I don't know anything about. I've never had to tell my parents before, "Hey, I'm going to stop doing this thing that you think is really really important, and I'm going to go do this other thing."
Yeah.
And I've never had anyone in my family be like, why are you trying to be a trainer or something like that? Like, you should do this job. You make more money this way. Actually, no, I have had like one mention of that on like, well, you would make way more money if you do what I do type of a
Yep.
deal. Like if you work on the telephone lines and do stuff like that, Okay. Well, let's get back to here. You want to pick up this next part?
Yeah. With John. Yep. John North had a run like that, in the snatch in particular, not long after I moved to California. I helped him make a major change in his snatching technique immediately upon beginning to coach him. At first, it didn't seem to make much of a difference, and then you could see things start to click. You couldn't quite see the kid. You couldn't quite see the kid hiding in there who would be snatching over 160 and cleaning over 200 a year later just yet. But something special was going on. And even with the weights in the 135, 170 range on the snatch and clean, you could see the wheels turning in his head when he started to hit a lift here or there that was just way too easy for the weight on the bar. John ended up going even further with the technical changes to his pull than I advised, creating his own personal style. He has now snatched 166 and cleaned 205 using his own unique style of pulling, and those lifts are over 70 and 90% of his best back squat. Unreal efficiency. Truly one of the most efficient lifters in the world. It was fun watching it happen, watching him evolve as a lifter, watching ordinary become extraordinary, normal become great. The razor's edge for John was mental, not physical. It was him becoming more and more confident going under weights that were more and more unreal compared to his actual strength level. Nurturing that confidence along that apple cart could have been upset very easily, but somehow he prevented that and did something very special.
I did the math. It's so 70% and 90%. So he of his best back squat for snatch and clean and jerk. So just for perspective, your current new back squat 1 rep max is 150. 70% of that is 105. We're not that far off of that for a snatch PR. You went under 100, and you definitely probably could snatch 105, if not more. Like it's not like a factor of like, is he strong enough? Is he fast enough? Things like that, right? You just have to like, it's probably more mental.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to like go under that weight. But also, here's the fun part: 150 is not your real back squat PR either.
Yeah.
So that's why I'll fluff it up to 110. But if we did 90% of 150, then the clean and jerk would be 135 kilos. And I mean, you got dizzy on the 120 at the regional, but also it looked like nothing. Like, so it's like, it's not outside the realm of possibility that your real ultimate clean and jerk of like it's in your body right now is like a 137 kilo or 140 clean jerk, because remember the 150 is probably not even the real back squat PR.
Yeah.
And your front squat PR, is really close and always really chasing. There's not a big chasm between them either. So if it's on your shoulders, you're going to stand up with it. If it's on the shoulders the right way, the way that you want it to be. How do you feel about that on like when you crunch? I don't know if you crunched the numbers. I had to. And I've done it for others on the team too. Just like real quick, Schaff, we know he can back squat 184 kilos. 70% is we'll say 130. It's 128.8, right? So we'll round up to 130. And then for the clean jerk, 90% is 165. It's like, all right, that's what the numbers say that it should be, or much closer. And if you think about, I'll ask you, what do you think about hearing those numbers and also thinking about the gap between where you are now in the numbers that you've realized and the ultimate potential theoretically?
Yeah, I mean, it's again like, all right, what now do I add, or like what do we change to make that more possible? And it's kind of, I think overall in training, like we talk about these things in maybe not directly, but like somewhat, I feel like weekly, of just like, okay, eventually we're gonna have to get to those heavier numbers. How do we get to those heavier numbers? Are
Yeah.
we messing around a little bit too much? Like if I was going for a max and you were like, choose your weights to get up there, like, am I messing around a little bit too much with either my time in between these like lighter attempts, or am I messing around too much with like these lighter weights, and should I be making bigger jumps? Like,
Which
because
both can make you more exhausted by the time we get.
right. And it's like, oh, I probably shouldn't, or like I shouldn't be afraid of going 70, 90 in like, especially in like the clean and jerk, right? Because I'm trying to get past 120. I shouldn't be going like, all right, 110, I could miss this. Like, let me make sure I can get this 110. It should be like, all right, the goal is past that. I have to now really go for it. And yeah, it's that mental aspect of getting under those heavier weights and going, I'm going to get it. I can't care how it's going to feel. This is less than I should be able to hit anyway. So I should feel no fear going for it.
Yeah. And that it says right here in that the next paragraph that for John, the razor's edge was mental, not physical.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's true for many of you. And I think I mentioned that in in maybe the regional recap. And I've talked to a few of you about it. I know I actually had a conversation with Murph about it on like, I showed him the video of your 100 and Haley's 100. And I said it's not physical at all for either one. It's all inside. It's all the mental part of it. It's all the what ifs. It's all the, well, I've never done it before. And Donnie has a great quote on, once I'm convinced, I never let go. Like you have to have such an insane level, and I'm using the word insane just to magnify all this level of confidence and belief in yourself. And you can't even fathom that you wouldn't get it. Like there are people out there that you see them doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Like that those are the people that get all of like the press. You're like, you believe in yourself way too much and you're about to kill yourself for someone. But like, think about the people when you watch the or the European Championships recently, right?
Yeah.
You see the people who they're like, oh, that is a personal best and a world record. And this is their first time ever doing that weight before, not even in training or anything.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that's when they go for PRs. They don't have they might probably have test days, I'm sure. But like oftentimes they're putting weights on there that no human being has done before. So in order to do that, and that's what we're doing on a micro level, like Miguel has never done this before, in his own instance. But it's like you have to have like that, like, well, I've trained for this. I'm ready for this. I want this. And I said that a lot to some of you guys. I say a lot to Shaf. I'm like, you want this. Because I feel like I have to remind him, like, yes, you want this. You've told me you want this. Let's do this right now. Don't forget. And then you have to put that effort into it. So that's kind of what that reminds me of. And so do you think, is that true for yourself? And answer for yourself, but also, do you see that around our little group a little bit too?
Yeah, for sure. And I think we all yell at each other a lot because of it, or because we, especially now, like we are all so much so watching each other, and we know exactly where this person catches and where how high the bar needs to go and how much they may over pull and all of this. So we see it all the time. We go like, you had that was fine, and you know that was fine. And usually that person is also like, yes, I know, yeah, thank you. Like I'm aware.
Well, and when you guys are watching each other, like, of course, there is a little bit of a competitive thing in there,
Yeah.
on like, but like, I don't feel like you guys are competitive with one another to a toxic degree or anything, or ever. It's more of like, it's competitive with what? Oh, he's using the same weight as me. Like, all right, of course you should be offended by that.
Right.
But then, like, it's almost when you get offended, the finger points right back around at you. It's like you could add 10 more kilos to that bar, or
Yeah.
or like you could go heavier, or your max isn't heavy enough,
Mhm.
or things like that. Kind of like when you found out that Chris's back squat max is 5 kilos
Yeah.
more than yours, and you're like, wait a minute, why is he doing that weight and I'm doing this weight? Because the vast majority, actually 100% of the last training cycle for 13 weeks, your squat weights were always heavier than Chris's squat weights.
Mhm.
And that's because I took it slower with him.
Yeah.
He's getting new. He did have some back things, or he did a 25-mile race on
Right.
Saturday and he's dying.
Yeah.
Which that's an example of live your life. I've set my piece.
Mhm.
If you're gonna run. I like there was also like at the regional, Justin told me, it's funny, Justin spilled the beans. He's like, oh, Chris is here and he had a rough night, yeah, he had a poor outing and he drank, was alcoholic beverages were involved. And there was a moment where I was like, almost like really pissed off, like the night before the regional. Are you kidding me? Like, do you not take this? But then I was like, live your life. When you decide to get serious about it, then come talk to me, or you'll figure it out.
Right.
But there's it doesn't do me any good to, like, the initial reaction. I was like what? Like, are you kidding? But then I was like, just let it go. Like, whatever. Like, because it's still like, we'll do what we need to do today, because he's in that area where anything we do will lead to success.
Right. Yeah. It really would not affect him.
So why get mad about it? Now, if we're at the national championships A session and Miguel is primed, and then you show up late to weigh-ins, hungover and all this stuff, and upset about, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, all right, now I feel like I'm justified for being super pissed about it, right? And because the emotions come out when you see someone damaging themselves in a way that you don't agree with. But where was I going with all this? I've lost track.
It was just like the mental aspect of like, oh, like when we miss lifts that are at these maxes, but we know physically that we're probably past that number anyway.
And you guys are not competitive in a toxic way. You're competitive in a way that you want to see the others succeed so badly, because you can see how hard they work and their potential. And it's harder to see your own potential sometimes, but then you'll watch over at Haley and you'll like, oh, you can do so much more. Yeah. And she might fight with you on it, but you're like, no, I believe, and so that's a good thing that we have going on seeing these things.
Yeah.
Just a side tangent for coaching stuff, just wondering in general, you get to watch essentially a very solid group of intermediates lifting often. Has that helped you when you're coaching and watching essentially very pure beginners, and you're having to work with them on their technique? So does watching the team help you make decisions and see what's happening on people who have less refined skills?
Yeah, I think it's still very much in the anecdotal phase of just like, I can only really go off of what I've seen. But early on in coaching, it's like, well, this is how I lift and this is how my body moves. That's all I can really help you with. But seeing now our club, like, we all lift so differently.
Oh, yeah.
Like there are some similarities between some of us, but yeah, just I turned to my left and even across like to Haley, to Jennifer, lift completely different. Then Chris behind Jennifer, and then Shaf in the middle, and then Alex and Justin, and even Tanzira and Rebecca. It's like we all lift differently. So now I can see like what does this person usually do, or what's the next step that we work on with this person if they're lifting like this,
Yeah.
and how can I use that for like a different audience when it's CrossFit?
Yeah. And that's the cool thing, because you might eventually see someone who you're like, oh, you lift like Haley does.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and then you can kind of work off of that base, or you lift like Jennifer does. And it's funny because that you mentioned those two right off the bat, because they kind of have the polar opposite like issues too that might pop up.
yeah,
Haley might use way too much hips and
yeah.
bump it out, and then Jennifer, we're not getting it close enough to the
Hmm.
hips sometimes. So it's just funny how even though they're neighbors, they're like they have the polar opposite, thing that they're always working on for their pulls.
Yeah.
And then if you take a step back, like you said, you'll find other things going on. So it's good that you guys are watching each other, and then when you watch, does that give you ideas on how you can improve when you watch other people, or you're like, maybe I'm doing that, or I need to not do that?
Yeah, I mean, there are the days where, like I say a lot, like sometimes I just forget how to lift. So I'll just look at somebody else and I'll go, all right, let me do that. Um, but yeah, sometimes it's like learning from the successes and the mistakes of others. If I see, okay, you bumped this one out, or I could see the loop in the way that you brought it down for like the mid thigh or something, um, that's the reminder for me to not do that.
Yeah.
Or, oh, that one was super fast. I have to remember that I want to accelerate on this next one. Yeah, it's constantly stealing from everybody else.
Yeah, that I mean, that's the beauty of the group training, and like feeding off one another, and even just maybe even just seeing someone's intensity for the day might spark you to do
Yeah,
something. I know there've been like instances where like maybe I'll tell someone to move their feet more, or someone will, and then all of a sudden you'll hear louder smacks from other quadrants of the room. On like
yeah.
someone's like, yeah, I forgot to do that too. I should probably do that. It's just funny the way it works out. Any other thoughts on the John North uh, paragraph or section here on the Razor's Edge?
No, I think the big part for that was the mental aspect for sure.
Yeah, and I this book is littered with them. I love the apple cart. Like
Yeah,
I'm like I ever had or experienced an apple cart? Or is that But it's Glenn was from Kansas, and they had like a chicken farm and fish and stuff all over. So the book is of course littered with all kinds of things about references to chickens and or
yeah.
milk crates and stuff like that. So love it. All right, so we're on Donnie Schenkel now. Donnie also balanced on the edge of a very sharp razor. After 9 years of training, we stumbled upon a training template that allowed him the kind of progress that isn't normal after that many years of training. Whatever it was, the training, the mental outlook, the lifestyle, the rest, the food, whatever it was working. One misstep and failure was on one side, injury on the other. Chad Vaughn gave Donnie some of the best advice he ever received when he simply said, take it one lift at a time. Take things one step at a time to move forward just a little more along the razor's edge. I think it's a great way to end the article. I'll just focus on that last sentence first. Um, there's he's never once mentioned that there's an end to the razor's edge outside of the fact that something may stop working. But
Mm,
he said that earlier, I think, in the Caleb Ward part. But just because something stops working doesn't mean you're not going to find the next thing that you might
right.
need to do. Because if eventually you start to stall on your progress, well, a change needs to be made, and then that small change could spark a gigantic boom. But yeah, it kind of never ends, I guess, until you decide to step off of the ride, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I guess it could go from narrow to wide again too. And there's plenty of people who continue to lift and compete. There's a lot of people that they compete at a really really high level, but I imagine their razor's edge isn't as thin as it was when they were really kind of
Right.
going after it.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the old names are now new names or young names in the masters category,
Hmm.
and like they were like world team members back in whatever. But I'm sure they're probably like they've got kids now, they're
Yeah.
like living different lives, but they just still have that base of ability where they're like, yeah, I can still throw down.
Hmm.
So that's just a fun part of it. What kind of stood out to you for this Donnie part?
Yeah, it's again like 9 years and then still going. It's just consistent, consistent, consistent. And then yeah, maybe like you have a goal, but not going too far ahead of yourself in the present.
Yeah.
Like you know that the goal is to make it in however many years that thing is going to take place, but right now you have to focus on right now. Like how can I do my best on this next lift? How can I do my best to recover today? How can I do my best, and then everything compounds. But again, it's like it's devoting so much time over and over and over again. Like it's one lift at a time times a million.
Yeah, it really is, and it never ends. Um, I I like how he mentioned in here this very easily could have been the best advice I had ever given, or the best advice Donnie ever seen. Like it's like a nice humbleness of coaching, on like like he's Glenn is saying the best advice Donnie ever got was from another person, not
Right.
from him,
Hmm.
But it's like, but he doesn't care about things like that, cares about winning. If
Yep.
if someone gave Donnie the greatest advice ever, and that adds 20 kilos, and Donnie becomes Olympic champion, I'm still the coach. Cool.
Hmm.
All right. Awesome. That was the little thing that needed to come in, and oftentimes taking one lift at a time or doing one little thing at a time is the best thing to do, but it's hard for a lot of people to kind of grasp
Yep.
on just taking it one lift at a time. Even just the clean, you're already thinking about the jerk before you've ever pulled on the bar,
Yeah.
and then now you have a rough jerk or clean and you don't make it, or you got 5 sets and you have doubles and you're thinking about rep 2. It's like no, you need to channel everything into rep 1, and then
Yep.
even though it's rep 2, it's really just rep 1 again. Like
Yeah.
the one before it and the one coming after it is gone. So it is great advice, and I just appreciate the humility of Glenn in his blog and also in the book to, other people I feel would change that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a really easy thing to change. Yeah, I told Miguel, let's take it one lift at a time.
Hmm.
And who's going to remember or refute that, or anything. So I just think it's a good attitude to have for a coach. On it's literally anything and everything that will make your lifter better.
Yeah.
Like there's no jealousy in this. There's no nothing. If we're at a competition and I don't know, it's like, Jim Storch, someone who I respect immensely, is like, hey Miguel, wiggle your pinky while you pull, and you set the state record and qualify for nationals and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, that pinky thing that really really worked. I'm like, awesome, because that is putting Miguel further along on his journey, on whatever edge we're on, and because remember, it's Miguel's journey, it's not James McDermott's journey. Like
Hmm.
I have my own journey that the story of Miguel connects to and whatnot,
Right.
and I'm a part of, but I don't own Miguel's journey. I just want to see Miguel, Haley, Schaff, Alex, Jennifer, everybody succeed,
Yeah.
and I'm here to help with that. I can't do it for you. Can't lift all of your bars and take all of your attempts and whatnot. But and also putting your athlete in front of people they can learn from. Like that's why I encouraged all of you to take the level 1 and level 2s. It's like, hey, you'll learn more and you will be a better athlete when you do it. Like,
Yeah.
was that true? Do you feel like that helped you be a better athlete on just taking those 2 things? Or
Yeah. Um, again, just like you just need more data, really, of like hearing another coach's perspectives. And even like when we're coaching each other in like the level 2, and someone tells you something that you're like, I don't think I'm going to continue with that, but thank you for having me consider it.
Yeah.
All those things always help.
Yeah. You do have to kind of, to an extent, like know like how to take a seminar, like, I mean, there's certainly, and I wonder if this kind of like sparks some of like the reluctance of people to have people go out there and do other things. Like, okay, maybe it's too much information and
Yeah.
there can only ever be really one cook in the kitchen, but that doesn't mean you might not go to another restaurant and then come back to your main one. Like what you don't want to do is go to a seminar and be like, oh, everything I've been doing is completely wrong and I need to full sail change this, or my coach never told me this. Which the answer to, I would say 99.9% of the time, the real answer behind, oh, my coach never told me that, or no one ever told me that before, is like, yes, they did. You weren't listening, or you weren't ready to receive the message.
Yeah.
Like that is one thing that will drive me crazy when like, oh yeah, they told me to do this, and I've never heard that before, and I'm like, yeah, you have, you have,
Right.
you don't remember fighting with me about it when I told you that, and then now all of a sudden, you're all about it. You saw a video, or this person did it, or they said it in a different way, because we are all also saying largely the same things. There's very universal things.
It's like me finally using a belt again after like years because of one video that I saw.
Oh my God. I was literally just now going to cite the belt thing, and I'm like, all right, now let's not bring it up. So you brought up the belt. How long did I fight with people about belts? How long? That they're not bad, they're not a crutch, they're not a what, which they certainly, I agree, could be. They certainly could be.
Yeah.
But at a certain level and for certain things, and also there is the science behind how it actually works, and you have to use it correctly too.
Right.
Finally, and from what you started in 2017. Well, and here we are. When did you start using your belt? 2024, 23?
I mean, like I was using it initially, and then I think what would happen is I would use it for squats and then clean and jerks. And then at competitions, I would always just forget when I went out to the platform to put on my belt. So I just stopped. And then I eventually stopped using it for squatting for probably like 2 or 2.5 years. And then,
now it's back.
Yep.
So, there's, as a coach, you need to keep an eye on things, but you don't need to be offended or be jealous or something if people get feedback from other things. Because also, we're all adults here. We're all living and interacting. It's a whole melting pot of things. It's not a prison. We're not in state-sponsored Bulgaria and like, this is my team and I tell you what to do. And then, all right, Miguel hurt his elbow on snatches and I'm taking it personally and I'm going to punish him with endless sets of 10 on the back squat until his elbow gets better. Because I also don't trust that his elbow is actually hurting. I think he's lying and trying to get out of work. So I'm going to punish him with horrible things until he finally decides to snatch again. And then eventually you decide you're going to snatch again because you're getting sick and tired of these squats and you hurt your arm again. Yeah. It's a whole thing. And we're not having meetings where I'm telling you, on like what you're doing is good for your family and it's good for the state. And remember, we pay you. And there are no, like, it's not like that. It's like, let's have fun. Like, talk to people. We have friends that come to our gym from other teams and everyone's interacting. And I think it's cool. It's not, doesn't need to be like that. Although there are certainly people that operate like that. And I don't know, I'm sure they find success with that too. That being said, there is also etiquette. I mean, people shouldn't be sliding into DMs and things like that. Like all right. It does. The reason why there is an issue is there are people that do actively try to poach athletes, and then other coaches put up their guards and don't want things like that, which I don't know. I don't believe I've ever had an athlete be poached. by another team. I don't think anyone that's been on our team is currently on another team, are they? I'm trying to think. At least not in a big way. Of course, there's the CrossFit side of things. People that have been a member of
Mhm.
Albany CrossFit and are members of other CrossFit. I'm just thinking about weightlifting itself. I can't think
Yeah,
of the.
no.
And when people move away, I'd say if you want me to find you another coach, I'll find someone
Right.
for you. You don't have to keep training with us or whatnot. That's the decision that you make. And people do, like Renee. Renee's still on the team, professional dog sled racer now, or
Yeah.
doing stuff like that. So there's not a lot of time for weightlifting now, but the door is always open. Um, what else? I thought I had another thing here. After 9 years, whatever it was. Oh, it doesn't sound like there was ever a defining thing on like what was the thing that changed for Donnie, right? Or at least not written in this article.
Yeah, no, it just seemed like, yeah, kind of like in that way that we talk about, of like everything is just so narrowed, like he's doing all the right things
Yeah,
and he's still going. So we're just like, nobody change anything because it's going good right now.
yeah, and I like that a lot of different things it could have been was listed. Like it could have been the training or the mental outlook or the lifestyle, the rest, the food. Those last three things so important, but they often get overlooked, and we've been talking about them a lot, and their big impact on everything that we're doing in the gym. I will go back a little bit on something that was mentioned in, I think, the other half of this article on making a change and or something in the programming could make you less efficient
Mm-hmm.
in your lifting. And that is see right here, it's in the third paragraph in. It says when you're more toward the intermediate stage, it's a bit different. You go out drinking one night, your training is likely to suck tomorrow. You do too much, your progress will likely stop and you'll be hurting. Or you do the wrong exercise and your technique will get less efficient and your lifts will slowly become harder to make. This is something I wrestle with a lot on
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing in the programming. And I think we have seen instances of it on when like, crap, that didn't work. And now you guys are just figuring out ways to get the work done for the sake of getting the work done and survival instead of actually doing good lifts.
Yeah.
One example I'll cite is the power snatch and power clean complexes we did a year or two ago, where it was like do 3 powers and 3 overhead squats or something like that,
Yeah.
and the clean and jerk one was even more brutal. And that was my way of using those components to not only refine those aspects of the technique, like, okay, we're going to power snatch, and I want a power snatch to work on speed to the lockout, getting a fuller extension, meeting the bar and bracing with it. And then we'll do the overhead squats because of midline stability and working on the squatting pattern that way and gaining strength to it. But then in the end, it just ended up being a clusterfuck of metabolic demand and feet going wide and just rushing and trying to get it done because you're trying to get the pain over with. And it's like, okay, it works in some circles, I'm sure. Probably it would work. I just picked way too heavy of a starting point for us. But that's one example of like, okay, we tried it. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. I don't think I would go back to it, even though I think those things work in that way. Maybe that's, again, like we've talked about, beginning of the session, warm-ups. Do your lightest ones, a couple powers, some overhead squats, and then get into the rest of it,
Yeah.
For example. Let's say we're doing power snatches. We're training them. Then let's do that for the first 3. You're still warming up the power snatch, but we'll get some overhead squats in there to maybe negate the fact that we're not doing full snatches, even though chances are we're squatting before it. So then again, now it doesn't even matter. What do you think about that? This thought?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like what I was saying with like junk volume a couple days ago too, where you want to do all these things even tie it into like, yeah, watching other coaches and watching other athletes and wanting to add those things in. But we already have like a set thing that we're working on. So sometimes just something else doesn't always add to. Adding something might take away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of coaches and athletes, myself included, because for me, I have to try things, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I can read about it, and the book or the article or the video is saying it will work, but I haven't seen it work with people. And some of those people lie too, or there's exercises that were used 30 years ago for, again, a very specific group of people it worked with. Glenn talks about it in this book. I think it's on Power Jerks, on how um, the Russians released a study on the efficacy of power jerks, but it was with like a small sample of their athletes, and who knows if it was even true to begin with, and not just being put out there. And also, the numbers that they were like looking at are like, you're looking at an average of an average, and so it's not something that would work with everybody, and also drug free versus not, these are all things to consider. But when that information was disseminated here in the States, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you do 3x2 at 70%, at 75%, at this percent, and you put it in a spreadsheet and it calculates all of it, and then you just run that. And a lot of the work that the Russians were doing, Glenn would say, it just looks like they were just doing manual labor for the sake of doing manual labor. It'd be no different if you had them go out there crushing stones for hours every day, and they're going to get very, very strong doing that. But also, these guys lived there. They were getting their families paid. They were getting paid, and they were being fed. Actually, that's a lot of the payment too. And they owned you, and they, of course, were going to make you do work. And then, so it's a whole thing with that. But for me to know if front squat to jerk works, we have to run it for a couple cycles.
Yeah.
And then also there may be some exercises that I may just like the idea of as the programmer and become enamored with. And now you guys are going to do that for a little bit. Eventually, if you start programming someday, you'll start to have things that become your favorites or your go-to. You guys have lived through my phases of being really enamored with the Turkish getup. And then it kind of goes away for a while. And I'm like, because also we've tried it, but I can't find a true home for it where it'll live always.
Yeah.
Versus like there are true homes for things we do and variations of them that we're always going to be doing. But certain things like Anderson squat. All right, a squat off of low blocks, just working on a standing portion. Love it. I've had success with some athletes with it where they really needed it. Will it work in our full program? I don't know if we'd see a huge return on anything if we ran that for 12 weeks.
Yep.
I don't know. If anything, it could make some of you worse. Or something that I think about now too. Will it make you worse because the exercise itself doesn't work and isn't worth the squeeze from that fruit? Or does it not work because it wasted time that we could have been doing something else?
Right.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Can you think of any examples?
Well, I mean, just overall, we always talk about like, for us, like minimum effective dose.
Yeah.
And I think that timing is also important of what we're doing is working. So we can add something in, but it takes away from our total time of like the 2 hours we get. So we have to now cut down on the things that are working. We might still have them, but maybe less sets, maybe less this and that for something that doesn't really make as much of an impact or, might even take away.
Yeah. Yeah. That's completely true. And in the early days of our club, anything I threw at the wall would have worked.
Right.
Anything. Because if you go back in the beginning of this, that's where everyone's phase was. It didn't matter. You're getting a barbell in your hands 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And that's way more than you would ever have gotten if you were only doing just the CrossFit program. And plus you're going to do things way more consistently. Even if in a CrossFit week you touch the barbell 3 times, well, now we are guaranteeing every Monday for whatever this length of time in a cycle is, you are going to back squat.
Yeah.
So I can guarantee you are going to PR your back squat at the end of that, just out of the sheer repetition. And that's also where, if we're talking about the snatch, 5 warm-up sets and 5 working sets. If we're doing doubles, we've done this before. That's 10 sets of 2. That's in this book too, where it would work 100% with a group who's not been exposed to this, because they're going to get so much practice. They're going to make let's say Rebecca's perfect example. She's brand new. So much neurological practice. That's where all the gains are coming from. All her strength gains are coming right now from the back squat and front squat. They are not coming from the snatch. Yeah. That weight is still very, very light, but she's still going to get a lot of neurological repetition and gains that way. So when we see her snatch PR, can guarantee you the next time we go to max out her snatch, she's going to PR, and it's all coming from that. You are on the path of now some of your PRs for the snatch are going to be more physical, but the thing is, we don't need to do maybe 5 warm-up sets every time, or 6 or 7, or in this book, I think there might be 8 warm-up sets and then 3 working sets, because he talks about it. Glenn also wrestled with, well, this is what the Russians and Bulgarians did and whatnot. And let's all right. So there is like a manual labor aspect of this, right? Yeah. Like when you guys are doing the back squats and we do 5 sets of warm-ups, 5 sets of working sets, that's just manual labor, right? And that worked at the beginning of the year because I felt like we needed it. I feel like we need to get back in the swing of things. But now I feel like we're at the point where we're all efficient and we're all kind of on a collective, if you will, razor's edge, where like we are so finely honed in that like we can walk this tightrope of like, let's make bigger jumps. Let's do this. Let's do less work and still kind of push it. We don't have to do all this manual labor. That's why I was comfortable doing 3 warm-up sets on most of the days for most of our things versus 5. Because I remember when I was lifting full time, and this was 6 days a week, and the program I had was just snatch, clean and jerk, back squat or front squat, max them out every day. Go freaking heavy. You might PR, you might not, but you were going to go at a very high percentage all the time. You got so efficient that you just started taking jumps and getting the work done quicker. I've said it here before. My best back squat set ever. It wasn't a PR, but just working up to something heavy for the day. I got to 315 and 5 jumps. And it's like I'd never done it that before, but I came to the realization, I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I squatting 135 and 155 and 205 and 245 and all this stuff? I'm like, I did that yesterday, and I did that the day before, and the day before. And I'm like, let me do 95, 135. I might have went to 225, 275, 315, something like that. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize I could do that.
Yeah.
And my session's done, and I just went heavy, and I don't plan on going any heavier. And I also only had 10 minutes to get this done before class. I have to coach class, and you just get to a point where like you're ready. You're not ready, but you're like in a pretty ready state. And I kind of feel like we're there right now. Like, do you think so?
Yeah.
So that's what's kind of been like guiding my decisions on that a little bit. Doesn't mean we won't add sets later. I think we can kind of be in a situation where we might add sets when we need them now. I did think about how, all right, maybe week 1 we start with 3 sets, then we go to 4 sets, then 5 sets. We'll build up to the volume, which is a weird way, I'll admit, to do a cycle. Normally you would start with big volume. So again, if you're doing periodization, which comes from that Soviet model, you start with high volume, the volume goes down, and with high volume, lower intensity. And then as you go through the weeks to the competition, the volume goes down, but the intensity goes up. Yeah. And now you're doing heavy singles at whatever, and you're peaking and stuff like that. So I was going to do it this weird way. And I'm like, no, how about we just do whatever we need to do, and do it a different way? Because you guys aren't a room full of Russians that are living in a dorm and doing stuff. You guys are living everyday lives, and if we're refined for it, let's just go and get the work done.
Yeah.
Because if it means doing for your warm-ups 50, 60, 70, 75, 80, and then your working sets are 84, let's say on the snatch, or let's say the clean jerk, could we have just gone 50, 70, 80 and been there in three? Like, did we need those other ones? Like, did they do anything? You could argue one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
More warm-up sets, you're more warm. You had more opportunities to refine your technique. One thing that I did struggle with last week on not having those extra sets and having you guys go longer is now I get less opportunities to see as well. But I think it's okay still. Like I that was just me not liking it. I'm like, oh crap, people are already in their working sets, and I didn't get to, especially when some of you are sprinting through the warm up. I'm like, oh, I didn't get to see any of that. I think it's okay right now.
Yeah, we're front loading.
We're front loading. That's not a you problem. That's a me problem because it's outside of my comfort zone on what the standard practice is. But if we get to the end of the training cycle and you guys are all PRing through the roof again, worth it, right? And not a big deal. And it's not like you guys aren't thinking as well about what am I doing? Like you guys are, for the most part, as far as I know, leaving behind work and other things, and you're like, it's all about my lockout today. It's about fast feet today. When you write it down, and I'm hoping that you guys writing things down is all of a sudden realigning your focus on what else is happening to, like, what's my job today? Stampy feet, whatever. And that means something to me. And that's all it needs to mean.
Yeah.
What do you think about all this?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting again. They're like some of us who have been there for such a long time and then newer as well. And I think this whole article is a good point of that, where we're all in our different stages of like refinement and even like mentally our levels of care in the sport as well. And I know that even within that, for each individual person, like it fluctuates day to day, week to week, month to month. So yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of just got to figure out what they want to do, like what the goal is with this. And, if like what's worth it, like for these three in the article, like, you kind of got to make a decision, and those decisions aren't the same for everyone. So, but yeah, like when that's really what it comes down to, is just making those decisions and working on what you can and refining what you can and what you want. Sometimes it might be best for you to, again, because we're not full-time athletes, to, leave some stuff there to be able to kind of dance around with, have the freedom with. Yeah.
Do you mean like, oh, leave a set in here or two or something like that? Or like,
or like
the program.
Like, I want to go out with my friends this weekend, or, maybe like day 4 this weekend I won't do, or like maybe day 4 overall just isn't something that I need to do right now. All that stuff.
Yeah, day 4 is a great example, because I've already made it known it's not mandatory. It's not even ultimately. I mean, it is important if you decide to do it, but if everyone decided not to do it, it'd be fine. Or if the decisions you make with day 4, like Haley and I had a discussion when we did her report card, and we decided, like, because I told her I was waffling back and forth between having on day 2 jerk and clean be a standalone, and that might mean that we don't snatch that day, which now, okay, I'm thinking now that's one less snatch day for everybody, and I'm not going to throw snatches to day 4 because we've done that before. I'd rather not put the complicated movements on day 4. I'd rather them be with a team and when I can see them, if I can. So now that's one less day, and it splits up the clean and jerk. It's a less now we can really focus on just the clean and the jerk. But then I decide ultimately not to do it. Let's stay the course on what's working, right? Let's not change the game too much.
Yeah.
Which we've certainly done in the past, where like one program looked wholesale different than the other program, where you could still find a common thread, and I'm sure I had my reasons. But right now, looking at the 26 weeks into the year we're going to be in for the first 13 weeks, and then now this next 13 weeks, you're like, oh, it looks like one program, just the numbers and sets and stuff all changed, or the position moved down. But then we came to the thought, well, okay, well, you maybe don't want to bench press, but you do want to do more work on the jerk. And you mentioned, it's when on those heavier weights, the jerk feels uncertain. Let's do it on day 4. Let's do jerks off the rack for day 4. Other people, let's just work on upper body strength and whatnot, because we don't need to do extra jerks. And you also may not want to do extra jerks, or you didn't tell me you wanted to do extra jerks. You're just taking the program as is. But Haley was like, you know what? Like, I brought it up, and she's like, I'd be game for that. Cool. And now me thinking as a coach, that might be the thing, that makes Haley more likely to be motivated to come in to do day 4, because she told me the stated goal. Like we both know we want to clean and jerk 100 plus, and we pulled on it already. We went for it. We've had some very high 90 jerks within the last cycle, but those heavy jerks feel uncertain. And she brought up, well, what if I did? It all works now, and this, if we come back to this later, what if this is the thing that takes Haley to the next level? Like, and that's now she, that's 4 days of jerking during the week. No problem. People lift every day. I remember I used to clean jerk every single day. It's not an issue, especially if we program it right. And she's going to go off the blocks or the rack. But maybe this extra little bit of work and motivation and feeling out heavier weights in an isolated way is the thing that she needs to not only narrow her edge, but also stay on and continue the progress up.
Yeah.
Only one way to find out. We don't know. But I think there a strong case could be made for it, with the fact that like she was a part of this idea. And also it aligns with her goals perfectly and all that stuff. And it made me the difference between her coming in and getting 11, or let's say 9 day 4s versus 3 day 4s, 4 day 4s, and that little extra bit goes a long way. So yeah, fun things to think about. And like I said, I was like worried about reducing the volume on the warm-up sets and things like that, just because I know it'll be okay for Miguel. All right, this is the Miguel method, because Miguel typically likes to take those big jumps and whatnot. But I worry about the people that are newer. Are they getting enough? You know? But I think if we put the right intentions into the lifts, it'll still be enough. Because, like, again, when I'm waffling back and forth on this, I'm like, well, is this enough for Rebecca, for Chris, for Alex even? But then again, when everyone comes in, they're super tired. So now if we do all this extra work, is it too much work before we get to the main thing? And now the main thing is sloppier. Like, so I can think of, Miguel, a million reasons to argue one way or another, just have to pick it, and then figure out, okay, I think it'll be okay for Alex because he is a super. So, all right, now he's not as tired or beat up from the warm-ups, which could be just extra manual labor for the sake of it to get up there, or because that's the way it's done, or whatever. But now he's feeling a little fresher for his big battle, which is the working sets. And plus he can take those jumps, because we still don't know his ultimate potential, because he should be, oh my God, like he should be snatching. It's like closer probably to 140 or something, or 137, I think, when I did it. So, but that's a huge mental chasm between where he is right now and where it is there. Like 106 PR to 137, just step into that bar, you're like, oh, look at you, and I have to do what? I have to put you above my head and neck?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Especially when you know it's 300. That's always just looming on people. It's 300. That's the number people talk about for anything and everything. That's like one of the, I know there's 400, 500, 600, but 300 is like the first boss.
Yeah, for sure.
That like scares you. But cool. Well, we got any we went a little longer on this one, but good discussion. This was a fun discussion. Any closing thoughts?
No, I feel like we about covered it.
Yeah, me too. So we'll have to do this again. We'll have to find another article in here to kind of go through and read and pull something out of. But Miguel, where can people follow you?
Couldn't be Miguel on Instagram.
Boom. Follow me, James A. McDermott, Albany CrossFit Barbell Club, Albany CrossFit, Barbell Strikes Back, and we will see you again in another week. Later, Miguel.
Yeah.